So hi everyone, it's Kathy here, and I am excited today to introduce you to Courtney Pool. I met Courtney through an E4 Diabetes Solutions program that I went through almost 2 years ago. Courtney, maybe you could tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to be plant-based and interested in supporting people with emotions and eating.
My journey into working this way, having this as my career, initially started out with my own health issues. When I was still a teenager, I had developed some pretty severe combination of autoimmune issues, hormonal issues, chronic fatigue, and I felt like I was absolutely falling apart. Went to some doctors. I was pretty much told like, well, we don't really know what's going on. However, you could take some medications and that might help. Surely there's another option here. At the time, their documentary Super Size Me came out, which was all about fast food. And I had a whole series of education that I sought out about natural health and plant-based nutrition. I decided that I was going to go plant-based. And it took me a bit of time to make that transition, but I did. Basically, within a year of going plant-based, all of my health issues cleared up. There are other options for improving your health than just medications. A big part of why my health had become so bad was because I had been a lifelong overeater, binge eater, and it really had gotten worse as I got older until I got into pretty much a full-on binge eating, food addiction kind of cycle. I see that there's a couple of ways that you can determine whether a particular eating is related to emotions and kind of tell whether that might be a minor or a larger issue for yourself. And one of those questions is, if you've ever done like a detox for a period of time, what happens during that time is that your body can break a lot of the physical components of being quite attached to food, right? So your body can break the sort of attachment to sugar or the attachment to gluten. But many people find that even after they allowed enough time and made enough changes for their body to come off of the kind of physical attachment to those foods, they still sometimes experience the tendency to want ice cream when they're lonely, or, eat this or that that's not so good for them when they're stressed or when they're angry. And that was one of the things I observed that helped me to kind of realize that that was a possibility. And another criteria is really like, is the attachment to that particular food or that particular behavior pattern something that very much negatively affects your health, but you find it very, very difficult or seemingly nearly impossible to reduce it or eliminate it? Chances are there is some level of an emotional component with it. First important step is to be like, okay, I think there's a link for me there. I can see this sort of link, this pattern of I feel a certain way, and then I notice myself going for a certain behavior with food that's not so good for me. To heal emotional eating is really all about letting ourselves feel emotions rather than stuffing them or trying to numb them out. And I think that this comes down to a lot of interesting questions we can ask about really kind of cultural questions around what have we been taught about feeling emotions? Because I think that many of us have some level of messages that we've imbibed from the culture, sometimes from our family, from our childhood, around just messages like, if you feel any anger, it means you're a really bad person. If you feel sad, you're a bit pathetic. These kinds of messages that we internalize. And I think that those end up having a lot of impact on something as practical as whether we reach for too many brownies, because we have this subconscious thing going on of like, I'm not supposed to feel emotions. They're really bad and they make me a bad person. So I got to make them go away. What can I do to make them go away? Food's a good way to do that. What we really need to do is be willing to have our emotions and have our feelings. And I always tell people, one of the best teachers we have for feeling emotions are little kids because
Yes.
they are not blocked to emotion. They let it flow.
Exactly.
And so I always encourage people to feel their emotions like that. And you should do it alone, going into quiet spaces alone, letting ourselves really feel emotions like a little kid would is the way to go. Journaling is a tool that I often recommend for that too. And so it's good to look under the surface a bit there and look at questions like, are there foods that I wish that I could have that I'm kind of not supposed to have? but deep down I do still really want them? And if so, why? Does the steak represent some kind of comfort to me, or does the dairy ice cream help me with loneliness? Kind of looking at maybe what some of the deeper associations there are with certain foods, and that can often tell you, maybe what's going on there. So what I always recommend to people who are doing detoxes of any kind is to make some extra time when they're doing the detox that you create for yourself, and do practices that help you get in touch with your emotions more. Just do things that help you to connect with your emotions and just really allow it to happen. And the key is really to not judge it. Have that same kind of trust that there's an emotional detox that needs to happen as well. My belief is that deeper healing can happen, and over time, certainly not overnight, you can actually have these kind of root cause changes with the relationship with food so that it's not actually a battle all the time.